Married the alien beauty. Didn't expect her naughty sisters in our bed. The reluctant groom. The transport shuttle descended through Xylara's violet atmosphere, and Caden Thorne pressed his palm against the viewport, watching the planet's endless oceans shimmer like liquid sapphire. 6 months of negotiations had led to this moment, a marriage he'd never wanted, to a woman he'd never met, for a peace treaty that hung by a thread. Approaching the Crystal Palace, Ambassador Thorne, the pilot announced. Caden straightened his formal jacket, rehearsing diplomatic pleasantries in his mind. He'd handled hostile negotiations, navigated corporate wars, and brokered impossible deals. Surely he could manage one political marriage with grace and distance. The palace rose from the ocean itself, spiraling towers of transparent crystal that caught the light of 3 suns, refracting rainbows across the water. Magnificent, alien, and utterly intimidating. His escort, a silver-skinned Xylaran official named Torvin, guided him through corridors where water flowed along the walls like living art. Princess Xylara awaits in the greeting chamber. Her family is eager to meet you. The doors opened to reveal a vast room where water and air merged seamlessly. Standing at its center was the most striking woman Caden had ever seen. Princess Xylara's skin held an iridescent quality that shifted from pearl to soft blue, her long dark hair adorned with crystalline ornaments that chimed softly with her movements. Her eyes, large and luminous, regarded him with cool assessment. Ambassador Thorne. Her voice carried the musical quality of water over stones. Welcome to Xylara. Caden bowed formally. Your Highness, I'm honored by. You're shorter than I expected. 2 voices spoke in unison. 2 more women materialized from behind Xylara, nearly identical to each other but distinctly different from the princess. One had shorter hair with streaks of turquoise, her smile mischievous. The other wore her hair in intricate braids, her expression curious and warm. My sisters, Xylara said with a slight tightness in her voice. Xylara and Mia. Xylara, the one with turquoise streaks, circled Caden like a predator examining prey. He's quite solid. Do all humans feel like stone? Before Caden could respond, she poked his shoulder experimentally. Xylara. Xylara's tone sharpened. Remember your manners. I'm simply conducting cultural research, Xylara replied innocently, though her eyes sparkled with amusement. Mia approached more gently, tilting her head as she studied his face. Your eyes are such a strange single color. How do you express emotion without luminescence? Caden found himself struggling for words, a rare occurrence. We use facial expressions. How primitive! Xylara exclaimed with delight. I love it. Show me anger. Xylara, enough. Xylara stepped between them, her composure perfect despite the faint glow of embarrassment coloring her cheeks. Ambassador Thorne has had a long journey. Torvin will show him to his quarters. Our quarters, Mia corrected sweetly. Caden blinked. Excuse me. Xylara's luminescence flickered, definitely embarrassment now. There's been a cultural tradition I believe was not fully explained in the treaty documents. The sister's initiation, Xylara said, looping her arm through Caden's with startling familiarity. We'll be staying in your rooms until the bonding ceremony. It's how we ensure you're worthy of our sister. The floor seemed to tilt beneath Caden's feet. Staying in my rooms. Don't worry, Mia added from his other side, claiming his other arm. We promise to be only moderately invasive of your privacy. Xylara's expression remained diplomatically neutral, but something flickered in her eyes. Amusement? Sympathy? Welcome to Xylara, Ambassador. I suspect the next few weeks will be memorable. Sisters of Chaos. Caden's quarters were breathtaking, a suite of rooms where transparent walls revealed the ocean depths, bioluminescent creatures drifting past like living stars. He'd barely set down his belongings when Xylara burst through the doorway carrying an armful of iridescent fabric. We brought sleeping cushions, she announced. Your human beds look terribly uncomfortable. Mia followed with a chest that seemed to hum with its own energy. And traditional foods. You'll need proper nourishment if you're to keep up with Xylaran customs. Caden watched helplessly as they transformed his austere diplomatic quarters into something resembling a festival camp. Cushions in every color scattered across the floor, strange instruments hung on the walls, and the scent of exotic spices filled the air. The treaty didn't mention live-in chaperones, he said carefully. Chaperones. Xylara laughed, the sound like wind chimes. We're not here to protect Vayana's virtue, Ambassador. We're here to test yours. Test. Caden's diplomatic training was failing him spectacularly. Mia sat cross-legged on a cushion, patting the space beside her. Sit. The first test begins now, sharing evening refreshment. Before he could protest, Xylara had maneuvered him onto the cushions while Mia produced delicate glasses filled with liquid that shifted colors like captured aurora. This is Yavin extract, Mia explained. It reveals emotional truth. Among our people, sharing it creates bonds of trust. Caden eyed the drink suspiciously. What kind of truth? Drink, and find out. Xylara raised her glass with a challenging smile. They drank together. The liquid tasted of starlight and ocean depths, warming Caden from the inside. His carefully maintained diplomatic walls seemed suddenly unnecessary, exhausting even. Why did you really agree to this marriage? Mia asked softly, her usual playfulness replaced by genuine curiosity. The words spilled out before Caden could stop them. Because 20 years of war would resume if I didn't. Because thousands would die. Because it was the logical choice. But not the choice you wanted, Xylara observed, less teasing now. No. Caden stared into his empty glass. I never wanted to be anyone's obligation. Silence settled between them, gentler than before. Then Mia took his hand, her touch cool and soothing. Then we share something in common. Vayana didn't choose this either. She carries the weight of our entire world's future. She hides it well, Caden admitted. She's had practice, Xylara said, her voice uncharacteristically serious. Our parents died in the war. She became princess at 16, raised us while negotiating peace treaties and managing a grieving planet. She's forgotten how to want anything for herself. Understanding bloomed in Caden's chest. Vayana wasn't cold, she was armored, just as he was. The mood shifted as quickly as Xylara weather. Xylara bounced to her feet. Enough melancholy. Tomorrow, we teach you water dancing. You can't bond with a Xylara princess without knowing how to move in our element. I'm not much of a dancer, Caden protested. Even better. Xyara's grin returned full force. Watching you flail will be tremendously entertaining. That night, as Caden lay on his human bed while the sisters' soft breathing came from their cushions across the room, he realized something unexpected. Their presence, initially invasive, had become oddly comforting. For the first time in months, he didn't feel alone. Beneath the surface, the bioluminescent pools in the palace's lower levels glowed like captured moonlight, their waters warm and inviting. Caden stood at the edge in the swimming garment Xylara had provided, feeling ridiculous and nervous in equal measure. The water won't bite, Xylara called from where she floated effortlessly, her skin glowing with patterns that rippled like waves. Unlike me. Mia laughed from her position near the pool center. Stop terrifying him, Xylara. Ambassador, water dancing is about trust, letting the current guide you rather than fighting it. Caden slipped into the pool, the warm water enveloping him. Immediately, he understood the problem. On Xylara, water had different properties. It held him suspended, neither sinking nor floating, responsive to intention rather than physics. Feel the rhythm, Mia said, moving closer. She took his hands, her movements fluid and graceful. The water mirrors your heart. If you're tense, it resists. If you release control. She pulled him into a gentle spin, and suddenly Caden felt it, the water supporting him, moving with him. Mia's eyes reflected the pool's glow as she smiled. There. You're learning. He's still too rigid, Xylara called out. Let me show you. She swam over and, without warning, pulled him under the surface. Caden's instinct was to panic, but the water here allowed breathing, another Xylara marvel. Lysara's face, inches from his in the glowing depths, was surprisingly serious. "Stop thinking like a diplomat," she said, her voice clear underwater. "Here, you're just Caden. A man learning to swim." They surfaced together, and Caden found himself laughing, genuinely laughing for the first time since arriving. "You're a terrible teacher. But an excellent motivator," Xylara countered. "What are you all doing?" The voice froze all three of them. Princess Xylara stood at the pool's edge, her formal robes replaced by simpler attire, her expression carefully neutral. "Teaching your future bondmate not to drown at the ceremony," Xylara said cheerfully. "Care to join us?" "I have council meetings." "You have sisters who miss you," Mia interrupted gently. "And a future husband who should see you as something other than a political figurehead." Something vulnerable flickered across Xyara's face. For a moment, Caden thought she'd retreat behind her diplomatic mask. Instead, she slowly removed her outer robe. "Just for a moment," she said softly. When Xylara entered the water, she transformed. The careful control melted away, replaced by a grace that made Caden's breath catch. She moved like she was part of the water itself, every gesture an unconscious poem. "Dance with me," Caden said, surprised by his own boldness. Xyara's luminescence flickered, surprise, then something warmer. She took his offered hands, and together they moved through the glowing water. Unlike with her sisters, this felt different, charged with an awareness that made Caden's pulse quicken. "You're learning quickly," Xylara said, her voice soft enough that only he could hear. "I have good teachers. And better motivation." Her eyes met his, and Caden saw past the princess to the woman beneath, lonely, burdened, but hoping despite herself. The moment shattered as alarms resonated through the palace. Xyara's expression instantly shifted back to regal control. "Those are the emergency signals." They rushed from the pool as guards appeared. "Your Highness, there's been a breach in the outer chambers. We're securing the palace." "What kind of breach?" Xylara demanded. "Unknown, Princess. We recommend you and your family retreat to the inner sanctum." As they hurried through corridors, Caden noticed water beginning to flood certain passages, not natural, but deliberately released. Someone was using the palace's own defenses against them. "This way," Mia called, leading them down a side corridor. But the water came faster than expected, a wall of it surging from a ruptured conduit. Mia, furthest ahead, was caught in the current and swept toward an opening that led to the wild ocean beyond. Caden didn't think. He dove into the rushing water, his recent lessons guiding his movements. He caught Mia's hand just as she reached the opening, the current trying to tear them both out into the depths. "Hold on," he shouted, finding purchase on a crystalline outcropping. Xylara and Xylara reached them, their combined strength pulling them both back from the breach. As guards sealed the rupture, the four of them collapsed together, breathing hard. Mia clutched Caden's arm, her usual playfulness replaced by shaken gratitude. "You saved me." "You taught me to swim," Caden replied simply. Xyara's hand found his, squeezing gently. When he looked at her, the walls between them had crumbled. Her luminescence glowed with unmistakable warmth, not just gratitude, but the beginning of something deeper. "Thank you," she whispered, and in those two words, Caden heard everything she couldn't yet say. The heart's negotiation. The sabotage investigation consumed the next 2 days. Caden sat through endless security briefings, watching Xylara command her counsel with a steel-edged grace that commanded respect. But he also noticed the exhaustion she tried to hide, the way her luminescence dimmed when she thought no one was watching. The conspirators were revealed, a faction opposed to human alliance, believing Xylara should remain isolated. They'd been arrested, but the damage to trust ran deeper than broken conduits. "The council wants to delay the bonding ceremony," Xylara told him privately in her study, surrounded by floating holographic documents. "They say the security concerns are too great." "What do you want?" Caden asked. She looked startled by the question, as if no one had asked her that in years. I want to know if this is real. If we're just playing roles in a political theater, or if there's something genuine between us." Caden crossed to her, gently turning off the holographic displays. In the sudden dimness, only the ocean's glow illuminated them. Then let's find out. No titles, no treaties. Just us. He told her about his childhood on Earth, about losing his parents to the same war that took hers, about choosing diplomacy because he'd seen enough death. She shared her fears, her loneliness, the crushing weight of being princess and mother and leader all at once. My sisters saved me, Xylara admitted, her voice breaking slightly. After our parents died, I wanted to disappear into duty. But Xylara made me laugh, and Mia made me remember tenderness. They kept me human, she caught herself. Kept me whole. They're extraordinary, Caden agreed. Like their sister. Xyara's luminescence bloomed rose gold, beautiful and vulnerable. Caden, I need you to know, when I saw you save Mia, risk yourself without hesitation for someone you barely knew, that's when I began to fall. His heart thundered in his chest. Began to. I'm still falling, she whispered. Caden cupped her face gently, giving her time to pull away. Instead, she leaned into his touch, her skin cool silk beneath his fingers. When their lips met, it was tentative at first, a question and answer both. Then deeper, more certain, her hands finding his shoulders as he pulled her closer. The kiss tasted like ocean storms and starlight, like promises neither had expected to keep. When they finally parted, both breathing unsteadily, Xyara's entire being glowed with radiant light. Well, a voice interrupted from the doorway, it's about time. They sprang apart to find both sisters lounging against the doorframe, matching grins on their faces. How long have you been there? Xylara demanded, her luminescence now flickering with embarrassment. Long enough, Xylara said smugly. Though you could have been more creative. I expected at least a declaration of eternal devotion. Or poetry, Mia added helpfully. Humans do poetry, don't they? Caden found himself laughing despite the interruption. Do you two ever knock? Where's the fun in that? Xylara sauntered into the room. Besides, we bring important news. The council has agreed to proceed with the ceremony, but only if we can demonstrate unity. They want a public appearance tomorrow at the Tide Gardens. All of us? Xylara asked. All of us, Mia confirmed. They want to see that this alliance is strong enough to withstand threats. That you're not just tolerating each other for politics. Xyara's hand found Caden's, their fingers intertwining naturally. Then we'll show them the truth. That evening, Xylara insisted on a celebration in their shared quarters. She'd procured something she called star wine, which sparkled like liquid galaxies in their glasses. A toast, Mia proposed, raising her glass. To Caden, who dove into chaos to save me, and in doing so, saved all of us. To my sisters, Xylara added, her voice thick with emotion, who never let me forget how to feel. To family, Caden said, the one we're born into and the one we choose. They drank together, the wine warming and bright. The conversation flowed easily, Xyara's outrageous stories about court scandals, Mia's gentle observations about human Xylara and cultural differences, Xyara's rare, beautiful laughter. At some point, Xylara challenged Caden to a game involving colored lights and impossible reflexes. He lost spectacularly, much to everyone's delight. You're terrible at this, Xylara declared. I excel at other things, Caden protested. Like kissing our sister. Mia teased, making Xyara's luminescence flare bright pink. Meira. Xylara gasped, but she was laughing. As the evening wore on, Caden found himself watching them, these three extraordinary women who'd somehow become his family. Xyara's wild energy, Mia's gentle wisdom, and Xylara. Xylara who looked at him now with open affection, no longer hiding behind royal composure. Later, when the sisters had retired to their cushions and the lights dimmed, Xylara lingered beside Caden at the transparent wall overlooking the ocean. I was so afraid, she confessed quietly. Afraid this marriage would be a cage. Another duty binding me. And now. She turned to him, her expression open and achingly beautiful. Now I'm afraid of how much I want this. Want you. Caden drew her close, pressing his forehead to hers in the Xylaran gesture of intimacy Mia had taught him. Then we'll be afraid together. And maybe, we'll be brave together too. She kissed him again, slower this time, savoring. When they parted, she whispered against his lips, "Stay with me tonight. Just, stay close." They lay together on his bed, fully clothed but intertwined, her head on his chest as he stroked her hair. The sound of her sister's soft breathing nearby somehow made the moment more precious, not less, a reminder that love didn't have to mean isolation. "Caden," Xylara murmured, half asleep. "Yes. Thank you for not running away." He smiled into the darkness. "Where else would I go? Everything I want is right here." Love's new constellation. The Tide Gardens lived up to their name, a vast amphitheater where water and air merged in impossible ways, where flowers bloomed beneath waves and pathways floated on nothing but light. Thousands had gathered for the bonding ceremony, representatives from both worlds watching with careful eyes. Caden stood at the altar made of living coral, his ceremonial robes a blend of human and Xylara design. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from anticipation. Music swelled, and Xylara appeared. She was radiant. Her gown flowed like water made solid, embedded with crystals that caught the light of 3 suns. Her sisters walked beside her, Xylara and Mia in complementary attire, their presence a statement that this union joined not just 2 people, but 2 families, 2 worlds. As Xylara reached him, Caden saw his own wonder reflected in her glowing eyes. The officiant, an elder named Xylara, began the ancient words. "We gather where water meets sky, where 2 worlds become one. Ambassador Caden Thorne, Princess Xylara of House Valaris, you come not as strangers bound by duty, but as hearts choosing each other freely. Speak now your truth." Caden took Xyara's hands, his voice carrying across the gardens. "I came to Xylara expecting obligation. What I found was magic. Xylara, you showed me that strength and vulnerability aren't opposites, they're partners. You let me see not just the princess, but the woman who carries her world with grace and her heart with courage. I choose you, not because I must, but because I cannot imagine choosing anyone else." Tears glistened in Xyara's luminescent eyes. "Caden, you taught me that opening my heart isn't weakness, it's the bravest thing I've ever done. You risked everything for my sister, for me, for a world that wasn't yours. You brought laughter back into my life and showed me that duty and desire can be the same thing. I choose you, freely and completely, with all that I am." Xylara stepped forward with the ceremonial binding cord, woven from bioluminescent fibers that pulsed with living light. Mia held the chalice of shared water from both Earth and Xylara, mixed and blessed. As Xylara wrapped the cord around their joined hands, the crowd erupted in traditional harmonics, voices blending in frequencies that made the very air shimmer. "Drink together," Xylara commanded, "and become one family, one future, one love." They lifted the chalice together, drinking deeply. The liquid tasted of home, both the home Caden had left and the one he'd found. As they lowered the cup, Xyara's luminescence blazed brilliant gold, and Caden felt something shift deep in his chest, as if his heart had learned to glow too. "Sealed in water and light," Xylara proclaimed, "I present Princess Xylara and consort Caden, bonded for all time." The celebration that followed was magnificent. Music, dancing, feasting that blended cultures in delicious ways. But Caden only had eyes for his wife, who laughed freely now, her hand never leaving his. "You know," Xylara said, appearing beside them with her characteristic perfect timing, "you're officially stuck with us now. The sisters don't just go away after the ceremony." "Good," Caden replied, surprising her. "I'd miss the chaos." Mia hugged him tightly. "You're family now. That means weekly water dancing lessons, mandatory. I can live with that." As evening descended and the twin moons rose over Xylara's oceans, Caden and Xylara stood at the garden's edge, watching bioluminescent creatures dance in the depths below. "Are you happy?" he asked softly. Xylara turned to him, her face radiant with more than just luminescence. "I didn't know I could be this happy. I thought happiness was something other people had, not princesses with responsibilities. You're not just a princess anymore. You're my wife. And that comes with the responsibility to let me make you happy." She laughed, that beautiful sound he'd worked so hard to coax from her. Is that a diplomatic decree? A personal promise? They kissed as the moons reflected in the water, as her sisters cheered in the background, as two worlds watched and hoped. It wasn't a perfect kiss. Xylara's laughter interrupted them, and Mia insisted on a family embrace that turned into a laughing tangle of 4 people, but it was real. That night, in their private chambers finally alone, Vayana and Caden lay together watching the oceans glow through transparent walls. Her head rested on his shoulder, her hand over his heart. "Tell me something true," she whispered. "I love you," Caden replied simply. Not because a treaty required it, not because it was logical or necessary. "I love you because you're brilliant and strong and you let yourself be vulnerable with me. I love your laughter and your dedication and the way you love your sisters. I love that you chose me back." Her luminescence glowed steady and warm, contentment, trust, love. "I love you too. And I'm grateful every day that the universe brought you to me, even through duty and politics and everything we didn't choose. Because what we have now, that's entirely our choice." They made love slowly, tenderly, learning each other's rhythms with patience and wonder. Every touch was a conversation, every kiss a promise. In the aftermath, wrapped in each other and glowing with more than physical satisfaction, they understood that this was just the beginning. Their story would have challenges. 2 cultures merging, politics and protocols, the endless work of maintaining peace. But they would face it together, surrounded by family both chosen and born, building something new from duty transformed into devotion.